Well, you talked about quite a few things this morning on the first day of the Audio Academy. What sort of things do you feel were the most important you highlighted today, with the audience being what it is? Quite a mixed bag of people.
Mixed bag of people, and we have covered, even in just a morning, an enormous amount. I think the first thing is a reminder of the physical side of audio. Audio is energy traveling through air. Most people are thinking about audio as electrical signals and equipment, and to remind them of all those physical factors, I think that was a bit of a surprise to people, and how long we spent on that, and talking about reflections and how you hear things and things like that, because that's so often forgotten.
And for a foundation day, it must be quite difficult to pick the pieces you think people should know about as a requirement to learning further things.
Yes.
I mean, how do you decide what to put in today's sessions?
Well, it's difficult because also you don't know what level to pitch things at. So, we've made an assumption that people are technical, maybe with video or IT knowledge, but not audio experts. But some of them will have an appreciation of some audio, but not necessarily the depth. So there's that to contend with. We're also trying to mix up a mixture of theory and practice, and a bit of diving into some of the more mundane stuff that you just have to know, mixed in with the stuff that's much more interesting to talk about. So some of it, we're carefully deciding the order, and other bits are, well, we'll slip that in there because they'll have just done a boring bit, so let's now liven it up with talking about something else. So it's a mixture, really, of how we've tried to construct it to keep the pace going and the interest going.
There's so many different parts to audio, aren't there? I mean, you seem to cross so many borders nowadays, with modern technology being what it is, from networking to componentry to even acoustics, as we latterly came onto, which is a science all of its own, really, isn't it? And it's just probably making people aware that these areas not just exist, but should be thought about differently, perhaps, than they have been in the past.
Absolutely, and indeed we got some questions at the end, and one of our pieces of advice was go call an expert, because there was a gentleman talking about a particular situation, and we explained that wasn't our area of expertise. There were particular people with that degree of acoustic expertise that they should speak to. But actually, had we not been there, I don't know what he would have done, because you're right, it does fall across everything. And indeed, I look at the changes from when we did a version of this course with AV 5-6 years ago. We barely talked about networking then, and now it's a major component of the course. It's critical that we're talking about networking and not just traditional audio.
Do you feel people have got into this position where they think they know about audio, but in fact they don't, in a slightly different way, that they think they know about visual stuff, and they probably don't know either? And we've highlighted audio here, but presumably they've got a sort of knowledge gap across a range of technologies. But audio is the most obvious one that they're completely lacking on when you see how plugged in it is to virtually every technology they're working with.
Yeah, and the fact that it is different, because it is this mixture of art and science, whereas IT is science, video mostly is science, and audio is this weird mixture. We even put up one slide just talking about some of the words we use, because you can measure sound and measure different things, but sometimes you just need to describe it. And of course, all those words are subjective, and you sort of get what it means, but to remind people that there's this sound vocabulary that needs to be sort of understood.
Do you think terminology puts people off? I mean, to understand a subject properly, you need to understand its component parts, don't you? And therefore, it is a sort of discipline you need to invest in, don't you?
It is.
Are people now thinking, well, I just want the main points without having to go into all the depth?
You can certainly avoid some of the depth, but what you can't do is think about audio in the same way that you think about other technologies, because of this human side. You have to appreciate that it just takes experience. And I think we're going to do this afternoon is just get them to listen, because we don't think many of them will have actually closed their eyes and actually sat and listened to a piece of music and then be taught how to critically listen to it. Or how do you know that something sounds good? Frankly, the only way you can do that is by doing a lot of listening and a lot of practice.
It's a very interactive environment, isn't it? You want to get people to get involved, and almost it's juggling with the senses almost, isn't it?
Yeah.
Once your sense feels it knows something, it's in you, and you become associated with what you think it is when you're looking at it theoretically, in fact, almost.
Yeah, so I would hope people take different things away from this, that some will want to learn more and do more, but those that don't, I hope will at least have an appreciation of the complexities of the subject, and so that they understand why it's difficult and why people like me moan about the different challenges we're faced with, because they'll at least have an appreciation of what those challenges are.